What's going on, y'all? It's Cone. Welcome back to another NBA season. We're here. We have finally made it to the point where NBA basketball, regular season basketball, is back tomorrow. I'm, stoked for it. I'm going to be in Oklahoma City for ring night tomorrow. Bit of a Thunder fan here, if you didn't know. So excited about that. Thunder Rockets, Warriors, Lakers, and then everybody else plays over the next 2 days. It's going to be a really good time. And with the new start of an NBA season, we've got to make some predictions. Last week I gave my awards, kind of my thoughts on who's going to win the championship, but I think most people care about, at least initially, what the standings are going to look like, because not everybody's team is a contender, but you want to know, where does your favorite team stack up? If you're in a rebuild, are you going to take that next step? Could you be a dark horse type of team that maybe could make a run? And I've got a lot of thoughts on these standings. I want to go ahead and get through them, but I've predicted where every single team is going to land 1 through 15 in the East and the Western Conference. So we're going to go through both of those. As always, I want to hear your thoughts on how you think this season is going to go for your favorite team. What is a prediction that you like or hate about the ones that I put out there? But yeah, I mean, I guess we can go ahead and get right into it. And yeah, just let me know in general, kind of what you think your favorite team is going to do this season. Like, are they a contender? Are they a dark horse? Do you think the rebuild's going to kind of get going? But let's start off with the bottom five in the Western Conference. Here are the 5 teams I have shown at the bottom, kind of going for like an AJ DeBanza or Darren Peterson or a Cam Boozer out west. So I have the Utah Jazz in last place. I then have the Phoenix Suns. I've got the New Orleans Pelicans and the Sacramento Kings rounding things out. A couple, notes here. First of all, I think everybody kind of agrees the Jazz are going to be last. They are more intriguing and they're going to be fun this season, but I don't think anybody's expecting a lot of wins from Utah, which is good for them. They should be going for at least one more pick, and then next year I think is the potential to take a jump unless they trade Lauri Markkanen, which I do believe is a possibility. The Phoenix Suns at 14 in the Western Conference. Some people have said that's too low when I put it out there. Like, I made my full YouTube video predicting the season, and there were a couple of Suns fans that are like, wow, you're really low on us. I just think that they're kind of prioritizing the youth going into this new era. Like, Devin Booker is good. Jalen Green, I think, could have a better season. Dylan Brooks is a solid player. I like Mark Williams and Kaman Malawach as bigs, but it feels like their defense is pretty weak. I think there's going to be a lot of inconsistency, and they missed the play-in last year with Kevin Durant on the team. And I know they dealt with injuries, but even still, I just don't think this Suns team is going to be very good. The Pelicans, I think, could move up a little bit, but I just don't trust Zion's health, and I think the defense is going to be pretty bad on this team. Don't know why they trade their first round pick, but they did it. KW, let's go. 100% excited that the NBA season is back. We've got the Sacramento Kings at 12. Again, I could have them below the Pelicans. I think their defense is going to be horrific, but offensively, they could have some big nights, and at least I trust their health a little bit more. And speaking of teams that aren't healthy, the Memphis Grizzlies are already an absolute disaster to start the season. Ja Morant, we don't know yet if he's going to play opening night. Jaren Jackson's a little bit banged up. Zach Edey, Brandon Clark, both out to start the season. Scottie Pippen Jr. might miss the full year. Ty Jerome could be out to start the season. They're just absolutely decimated already, and that's probably not going anywhere. So those are my bottom 5 in the Western Conference. Let's move on now to my next 5. At 10, I have the Portland Trailblazers. 9, I have the Dallas Mavericks. 8, San Antonio Spurs. 7, Lakers, and 6, Golden State Warriors. I see Sapphire in the chat saying Portland being 10 or higher is crazy. I don't think so. I mean, last year, Portland was making a run for the play-in tournament in the back half of the season, led mostly by that ridiculous defense. And I think they're going to be improved on that end. Tumuni Kamara is not going anywhere. Drew Holiday's there now. Donovan Clingan is one of the better rim protecting bigs in the league. Like, there is a lot of talent on that defensive end. And I think if, like, you see some progression from a Shaedon Sharpe, or you see some progression from like Denny Avdia, who had a really great end to last season too, I think there's a lot of offensive potential here too. So yeah, for Portland, I think that defense is going to give them a real floor, and they're a hungry team. I think they're really going to play their butts off, and I kind of trust the health more than like Memphis. Number 9, I have the Mavericks. I know some people aren't going to like this spot for Dallas, but my thing for them is I think the offense, the spacing is going to be a real issue. Defensively, there's a lot of talent here, but it's also like a lot of rim protecting kind of bigs. They don't have a lot of like like great guard defenders, and I think that's something they could be torched a little bit on the perimeter. Like they're still going to be really good defensively, and that size gives them a big rebounding advantage. So I could be low on the Mavericks, but this is also me accounting a little bit for the fact that Anthony Davis is going to miss games. Like that is just going to be the case. And if he ends up only playing like 60-ish, I think they lose most of the games that he doesn't play. And Kyrie Irving being out to start the season, I think also, or maybe even the whole season, we still don't know if he's coming back, is really going to hurt this team as well. So I think there's just a couple of things that really lack over there in Dallas. San Antonio, some people have had them higher than this. I have them right here at 8. I think this is a good spot. I see Birdbrain in the chat saying that have the Spurs top 5. I could see them taking a jump, but I just don't think Azor. I don't agree that the Mavs are going to have the best defense. I think Oklahoma City is pretty clearly going to have the best defense. The Mavs could get top 5 maybe, but I think that offense is really going to struggle. But San Antonio, Wemby, I think this season will become kind of a consensus top 5, top 6 player at the very minimum. Will be right there in conversation for the an All NBA first team spot. He's going to win Depoy. The supporting cast, still has some steps to take, but I think just the talent of Wemby up top, he's going to lead them to a pretty solid record. And I think this is the year they break through into the playoffs. The Lakers at 7. I can honestly put them lower, or I might have them higher if I knew LeBron was going to be healthy to start the season. But with LeBron out, I think it's a lot on Luka's shoulders. Also, the fact that we don't know if LeBron is going to be here next season is a little bit of something hanging over this team. I really don't like them defensively. I think they're going to be terrible defensively. Offensively, they're going to pop. Like Luka is going to carry them a lot in the early going, but also is LeBron's injury going to persist? Because sciatica, dealing with the back and stuff, that's a little bit concerning for a 41-year-old. I think there are clear issues with this Lakers roster that need to be addressed, and it's still taking time. No, Morgan, I don't hate LeBron. Honestly, I really like LeBron, and part of the reason I have the Lakers this low is because they don't have LeBron James to start the season. The Golden State Warriors at 6, they are really old, like one of the oldest starting lineups ever. I think maybe the oldest starting lineup, but it's it's a very talented team. It's a very smart team. Steph, Draymond, Jimmy. Jimmy is a bit inconsistent in the regular season, so I think that kind of hurts them a bit, and I don't love the depth. They're relying on a lot of unproven young guys, and I think there is a world where they just break down in the back half of the season because they're all old, and they end up falling to like an 8 or a 9 or maybe even lower than that. But just talent-wise, off rip, I think the Warriors can compete for a top 6 seed. But if you told me you have them as a play-in team, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So that is my standings up to number 6. Let's talk about the top 5 in the West. I've got Minnesota at 5. I have the Clippers at number 4, Rockets at 3, Nuggets at 2, and the Thunder at the top spot in the Western Conference. For the Wolves, I've seen a few people say they could be better than this. I mean, they were great in the back half of last season. Randall really bought in. Ant took a step forward. Gobert was this elite rim protector, but they did lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I think was really important for them. I do think that Mike Conley's age is going to continue to show, and I don't love the playmaking options they have. Ant is going to be ridiculous still, but I could see Gobert. He's getting towards his mid-30s. I think he could take a slight step back. I just think there is room for the Wolves. I mean, this is right about where they ended up last season. They were the 6th seed, and now I have them a bit higher. But I do think that we'll see more of the Wolves from the back half of last season than the start of the year where they were terrible. But I also just think the 4 teams above them have such high regular season potential. Like you think about the Clippers. Yeah, the Kawhi injury. Like, I honestly even thought about the Clippers being like a number 3 over the Rockets because I worry a bit about the health of like Kevin Durant at times, and losing Fred VanVleet for the season is pretty tough. But with the Clippers, Kawhi is going to miss games. It's inevitable. They're older, but it's such a deep roster. They're so talented. Like, this Clippers team is one of the best that we've seen of this Kawhi Leonard era. And James Harden is someone who always elevates every team in the regular season. So I've got them at number 4. I've got the Rockets at 3. Again, I don't love them losing Fred VanVleet. I think the guard play is going to be an issue, but it's a team with a lot of size, a great defense. They added a big plus offensively in Kevin Durant. They're really well coached. So much room for improvement for like Amen and Jabari Smith and Alperen Şengün. This Rockets team is going to be amazing. Like, I still think they're going to be a top 3 seed. Nuggets at number 2. I mean, it's Jokic. Like, the team's always going to be really good, and you give him a really good supporting cast now with better depth. I would be shocked shocked if the Nuggets are not a top two, at minimum top three seed, but I think top two. But I think the Thunder are pretty clearly going to be the one seed again. Dealt with a big injury to Chet Holmgren out for a majority of last season. Isaiah Hartenstein missed part of the year. There were a lot of missed games from like Alex Caruso, and still the Thunder maintained the best record in the NBA pretty clearly, or at least in the West. The Cavs were there in the East for a little bit, but I do think the Thunder are going to repeat as the one seed, and I think most people would agree with that. When you have one of the greatest defenses ever and an MVP guy in Shea, it's hard for them to not win a million games. So let me know your thoughts real quick on the West before we get into the East. I did see someone say Mavs and Spurs should be higher. The Mavericks, my issue is just I really think there's going to be some bad offensive nights. Like, I'm expecting a lot from Cooper Flag, but I think they're relying a lot on him. Like, there's a lot of pressure on him to be a ball handler, to be an offensive connector, to be a floor spacer. Like, the spacing of the lineup that has Cooper Flag at the 3, 80 at the 4, and like Lively at the 5, it's really bad. Like, there are not many shooters that I trust on this Mavericks team consistently. Like, PJ has had some big time performances for the Mavericks, but overall in his career is not the most consistent 3-point shooter. Najee Marshall really struggled last year. Lively and Gafford are not shooters. AD is not a shooter. It's just not a great shooting team. Did I say best defense ever? I said one of the best defenses ever, Anthony. Perimeter defense, I think, yeah, I think the Thunder defense is probably the best perimeter defense ever. And a lot of stats back that up. Thoughts on Coop playing the one? I just don't trust it. Like, I think he's going to be capable, but against against worse teams, yes. But I think there needs to be time for him to develop as really a ball handler is the main thing. He's already got a pretty tight handle for a forward, but with the pressure he's going to see from some of those quick-handed guard defenders, I think it could cause issues. As like an 18-year-old playing point guard as a forward, like, he is way more effective than almost anybody we've ever seen as that type of prospect. But I think there could be a lot of issues when it comes against like the Thunders of the world or the Rockets or the Clippers or the Wolves, like these really good defensive teams. LJC uploads that if the Clippers stay healthy, which is a big if, they could be a 2 seed. I could see it, to be honest. Like, I could see the Clippers being a top 3 seed if they can keep guys on the court. Wolves should be higher, maybe King Tut, but again, I think that they really showed out in the second half of the season. Like, they were on fire. And I know they were also really bad in the first half. Like, they're not going to be that bad again. I just think the top 4 teams above them, like, I do think the records are going to be close. I saw someone in the chat ask, like, how close are these records? I believe that it's going to be like the Thunder are going to be a decent number of games above the Nuggets. I don't think it's going to be like a million like it was last year that they were over the 2 seed, but I do think the Thunder probably like 8 to 9 games above the Nuggets. Maybe not that many. Maybe around that. Like, let's say like 6 to 8 to 9-ish. Then the Nuggets are going to be pretty solidly the 2 seed. But I think the Rockets, Clippers, and Wolves could all be somewhat close. Like, I think those top 5 teams could all win 50 plus games. And then the Warriors, like, kind of right there in that conversation too. I think the play-ins are all going to be pretty close. I think like I could see a world where the Mavericks are only like 3 to 4 games behind like the Warriors at the 6th spot. I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference between a lot of these top teams in the West. I think it's really, really close. Okay, that's the West. Let's move on, talk about the East, and we can come back to this. If you have any more comments about how my West looks, then continue to drop them in. We'll talk about it as we go through. Eastern Conference. Let's talk East standings. We'll start off at the bottom. I've got the Nets, the Wizards, the Hornets, the Bulls, and I do have the Miami Heat. The Heat at 11 is one thing that I feel like I might end up regretting, but no Tyler Hero to start the season. I think that offense is going to be really rough. I think defensively with Ware and Bam, like and Wiggins, like it could be really solid as a unit, as well as, of course, Eric Spoelstra is just a phenomenal coach. He probably will end up they probably will end up in the play-in, but I think I could see a world where things just crash and burn for Miami this season. The Nets are going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I feel pretty good about them being the worst team in the NBA. The Wizards are improved, but they're still not going to be great. Hornets will be fun. Like, there's some things to like, but I think that defense is going to be terrible, and I just don't trust anybody to stay on the court for them. And Chicago, I could see them pushing up towards like an 11 or maybe even a 10 because there is talent here, but like Vucevic last year had a career type of season. Not career, but one of the better years he's had in a while. And like they were unstoppable in the second half of the year. I just think there's going to be more inconsistency, even if they're better overall, like as individual players in this young core. As a Heat fan, 11 is too high for them. Maybe that's the other side of the coin, Anthony. Okay. Next ones, I have the Raptors at 10, Pacers at 9, Celtics at 8, Bucks at 7, and the Sixers at 6. The Sixers, I imagine, is going to be the most controversial take. But let's talk about the Raptors first. I've got no idea how this team is going to look because on paper they've got a lot of talent, but I really don't like the spacing and the fit of some of those pieces. But again, they're talented and there is a decent bit of upside if guys really pop and they click in the way that they theoretically could, but I don't know if that's going to actually work on in practice. I don't know. The Raptors are a team that I went back and forth on all throughout the offseason, but ultimately I settled on them making the play in just even if it's barely. I've got the Pacers at 9. I know no Halliburton, no Miles Turner, but I think Mathurin and Nembhard could both compete for MIP. I do think like a Jay Huff is a solid big for them. Siakam is great. They're really well coached with Rick Carlisle. They'll remain competitive. I've got the Celtics at 8. I could see them being higher, but I do think that there is like their front court, especially their big spot, is extremely weak. The reason I have them above like an Indiana, for example, though, is because, they do still have Derek White. They've got Anthony Simons, Peyton Pritchard, like Jaylen Brown, still an all NBA level player. And ultimately, I think there's definitely a better chance of Tatum coming back than Halliburton. I don't see any way Halliburton returns this season. I also don't think Tatum should come back this year, but he keeps talking about it, and I do think it'd be crazy if we get a Celtics as an 8 seed matchup against the 1 seed, who we'll talk about in a moment. I think that would be a really fun series, a little bit of a revenge possibility for Jason Tatum. Then I've got the Bucks at 7. Like it's Giannis and shooters, which is an interesting formula for success. But beyond Giannis, I just don't trust a lot of guys on this roster. I think the defense could be a big time issue for them. And it's just going to be a lot on his plate. Like they're asking a ton from Giannis, who I do think is going to be the scoring leader in the NBA this year. But is that going to be enough? Because it's also going to hurt his ability to defend when I think that's already a bit of an issue. I'm just not really in on the Bucks. And I do think the Giannis, like, could he ask out thing is going to hang over them this season. The Sixers at 6, I know. I might be insane for buying into the Sixers like this, but I do think if they're healthy, it's a good roster. I don't believe Paul George just straight up sucks now. I think there's a bounce back for him. And B looked pretty good in the preseason. How many games is he going to play? Maybe that's enough to slide them down to a 7, 8, or a 9. But I'm going to trust the fact that Embiid doesn't have to do like MVP level stuff for them to be a decent team in this Eastern Conference. He doesn't. If he can just be like a borderline all NBA level, even like really high all-star level, and we get a bit of a bounce back from PG, and Max sees himself, and Jared McCain looks pretty solid in his sophomore season, and I really like VJ Edgecombe. I think there's a pretty fun team here and a team that could be decent in this Eastern Conference. So give me the Sixers at 6. Let's move on to the top 5. At number 5, I've got the Detroit Pistons. At number 4, I've got the Atlanta Hawks. 3, I've got the Orlando Magic. 2, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I do have the New York Knicks as the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Pistons at 5. I think they take a little bit of a step forward. I don't like them losing Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley, although there is still a chance that Malik Beasley comes back at some point. No one has signed him yet. Maybe he ends up going back to Detroit, but I would love that for them. I think losing that volume shooting is going to hurt. Duncan Robinson is capable, but he's nowhere near like the volume guy that Malik Beasley is. Also, everyone kind of expects progression, but there is a chance for a bit of stagnation with development, and Jaden Ivey now out to start the season, which really sucks. But Cade, I will imagine, will again be all NBA level. Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson, those guys could take big steps forward. So I believe in the Pistons. I think they'll be a bit better than last year. The Atlanta Hawks, I like this Hawks team an absolute ton. I love that they added Porzingis. I love Nikhil for this team too. Dyson, Zachary Risachet, Jalen Johnson, who I think could be an all-star, all next to Trae Young, makes them a pretty solid defensive team. Hawks 4th just off KP. What am I missing? Q Simmons, it's no Jalen Johnson down the stretch last season. I think Risachet has a step forward. Porzingis helps a lot as a stretch big. It's something that Trae really hasn't had in his career, and I think there's a really fun dynamic there. Luke Kennard is a shooter as well. Progression from Dyson Daniels. Like, it's a really young team that could show a lot of growth and is led by a great playmaker, a great floor general in Trae Young. Like, it's the best defensive team they've had around Trae Young in his career. So I think there was a lot to like about this Hawks team, to be honest. And Onyeka Okongwu is a backup big. It's one of the best backup bigs in the league. Orlando Magic at 3. I'm buying into the Magic. I think the step forward is here. Paolo, Franz, Jalen Suggs, like all those guys missed a good number of games last season, and they still were able to go 41-41. I think 50 plus wins is very easily attainable. I think they could win like 53-ish. It wouldn't shock me. They're a great defensive team. I think the offensive growth by adding Desmond Bane is going to be big. This is going to be an amazing Magic team. I really, really like them. The Cavs at number 2. I will say the Cavs are my favorite to win the Eastern Conference, like just straight out. But I think there could be some losses here that rack up earlier on the regular season than we saw last year. Like last year, what they were 15 and 0, I believe, to start the season. I just can't see that happening again, especially when Darius Garland is out to start the season. That to me really hurts them at the beginning of the year. Like they'll still be fantastic with Mitchell and Mobley and Allen. I like Lonzo Ball a lot too as an addition to this backcourt. I think Lonzo's going to be great for them. But also like Max Strus out to start the season, but also DeAndre Hunter a full year now. There's a lot of give and take with this Cavs team in the regular season. When we get to the playoffs, I do have them winning the Eastern Conference to play the Thunder in the championship, but I think there's a world where the Knicks get it done. And part of that could be, I think they grab the 1 seed and get home court advantage in the Eastern Conference. This Cavs team, again, last year, I think they were underrated a little bit because they lost in that second round and, they dealt with a lot of injuries. But they went 64 and 18. I don't think they have that record. I think they're more like mid 50s wins. But I could see the Knicks getting like 57, 58, maybe even close to 60 wins just because they feel so well set up to just rack up W's in the regular season. Whether it's Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns or Mikal Bridges or OG or Josh Hart, they actually have kind of a bench now too with Jordan Clarkson now in there. Deuce McBride, I love Gershon Yabusele for this team. I think they could rack up, pretty close to 60 wins in this Eastern Conference. Maybe that's not the case because Mike Brown isn't going to play the starters really heavy minutes the way that Tom Thibodeau would. But I think the improved depth is going to allow that to be somewhat viable. Mitchell Robinson, I do think not having him consistently. Like we already don't know if he's going to play opening night for the Knicks. That could be a bit of an issue because I do think their best lineup is him at the 5 with Cat at the 4 and running that type of unit. But I mean, in the regular season, I just think the offense could put up a million points. They'll be a bit better defensively. I like the idea of them having a more dynamic offense too under Mike Brown than Tom Thibodeau. So yeah, give me the Knicks as the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it would provide us with some really entertaining playoff matchups. Again, like we could get the Knicks versus the returning Jason Tatum Boston Celtics, a rematch of last year's round 2 series. And I do think this Knicks team would beat them, but it's, a bigger challenge than you might want as a 1 seed. We would get Philly versus Orlando there, a really young team versus kind of a team that's moving on, might have to rebuild here soon with the Philadelphia 76ers. Giannis going up against that front court of Mobley and Allen. And then you've got Cade versus Trey, 2 of the best point guards in the Eastern Conference. But yeah, these are my Eastern Conference standings. Let me know your thoughts. Miami all the way. Andre, I'm hoping that they can be a bit better for you. Hotline Bling saying Bucks at 7 is crazy. Giannis is really like that. Are you saying it's impressive that I have them this high because of Giannis and the supporting cast, or that they're too low because Giannis is going to bring them higher? Why do you think the Cavs will fall off that hard? They've only improved. Jake, I mean, I don't think they're going to fall off I mean, again, I have them kind of mid 50s wins, but that's mainly because they went 15 and 0 to start the season. That's a crazy start that I think it's hard to replicate, but also because of the injury to Darius Garland to start the season and Max Strus. And we've seen, last year they went all out, or they tried to kind of go all out and got the 1 seed, and then they flamed out in the playoffs. I could see them just resting guys and kind of taking days off. I don't think the Cavs care all that much about the 1 seed. It's time to perform and actually win in the playoffs. So I think they might not take it as seriously. The Warriors are an elderly home. You overrate them coming from Tulip plays. I don't, I mean, I could see it. I've went back and forth. There was one point I had the Warriors as a 7 or an 8 seed. But my only thing is as long as Steph Curry's there and Jimmy Butler, they're going to be competitive. I think they'll be really solid defensively. I see your point with the age. To me, the way the Warriors end up falling into the play-in is that they start off good at the beginning of the season, but then by the back half of the year, guys are breaking down. You're missing a few games from Steph here and there, and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green is maybe out now. Horford, it is a really old lineup. You are 100% right. If all these guys were a few years younger, I'd have them as a top 3, 4 seed. But I am accounting for the age. I do think when I think about where teams land in terms of wins, I feel pretty good about my top 5. I think that is the top 5 in the Western Conference, barring big time injuries. To me, that's kind of one of my main concerns. Yeah, Brody, Warriors are a big injury. I mean, if Steph Curry misses time, the Warriors are going to fall off hard. 100% agree. But Steph hasn't had like one of those seasons where he's missed a bunch. Like, how many games did Steph end up playing last season? I know he missed a little bit of time, but yeah, he played 70 games. He's played 74 and 70 the last 2 years, and he's only played under 60 once since 2021. Like, Steph doesn't really miss games all that much. And he is older, like that could become an issue. I'm not saying that that trend will 100% continue, but I do think there's a world where, there's a world where he misses time, but the more consistent outcome is that Steph plays at least 60 games. And if he plays like 60, 65, and Jimmy Butler can step up in those, remaining games where Steph is out, assuming he's not also dealing with injury, then I think they'll have a pretty low or pretty high floor most nights. They just might not have the ceiling of like LA or the Nuggets or the Thunder or the Rockets, like some of those teams. But I do think it's a very talented team. Okay, let's go ahead and recap, and then I'll let y'all go ahead and get out of here. Starting off in the Western Conference, my standings. In the lottery, I have the Jazz, the Suns, the Pelicans, the Kings, and the Grizzlies. Playing teams, I've got the Blazers, the Mavericks, the Spurs, and the Lakers. My top six is Golden State, Minnesota, the Clippers, the Rockets, the Nuggets, and the Oklahoma City Thunder repeating, or I guess now three-peating as the one seed in the Western Conference. And I do think they're gonna win the Western Conference again this season, to face off against the winner of the Eastern Conference, which we can go over to now for my standing predictions over there. At the bottom, I mean, I feel pretty good about the Brooklyn Nets being the worst team in the NBA. There was a lot of room to grow there, which, it's early in the rebuild. That's fine. The Wizards at 14, the Hornets at 13, the Bulls at 12, and the Heat at 11. My playing teams are the Raptors, the Indiana Pacers, the Boston Celtics, and the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis trade could potentially, or at least rumors around that, could move them up or down. The Philadelphia 76ers at number 6, the Pistons at 5, Hawks at 4, 3 is the Orlando Magic, 2 are the Cavaliers, and 1 are the New York Knicks. And I do have the Cavs win the Eastern Conference, but I think the Knicks are capable, and that ultimately, with some injuries to Cleveland, the Knicks go ahead and grab the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference for the first time, and I don't even know how long. It's probably been a million years. But those are my NBA standings predictions going into the year, which starts tomorrow. I cannot wait for the season. It's going to be a really good time. I appreciate y'all tuning in as always. I've been Cone. Good luck to your favorite team this season. I hope you have a good year. I hope, whatever your expectation is, you want a lottery pick, you want an AJ DeBanza, Darren Peterson, Cooper, or not Cooper Flag. He's already gone to the Mavericks, but a Cam Boozer, then I hope that's the way it goes. If your team is trying to win a championship, then sorry, it's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll see y'all later. Peace.